Well, hello everybody! It's the Joker! You're gonna have to fight your way off of an alien planet, fighting demons, monsters, dragons, and two powerful kingdoms that will come for your throat! Oh, and yeah, if the bombs in your neck don't kill you first. Watch till the end, I'll show you how to beat the Isekai in Suicide Squad Isekai! So you know this ragtag group of DC murderers will accidentally end up in the world's most epic Isekai. Harley Quinn here, there's my girl, robs a bank with me, the Joker, and prepares to kill these innocent randoms. These losers say they work for Amanda Waller, and who cares who she is? And they say blah blah blah, their work will change the fate of the world. Who cares? Not realizing they're about to cause the end of the world instead. But we don't pay attention to that, and we escape right before the cops enter to save the hostages and run right into my trap and blow up the whole building. Anyways, me and Harley put pedal to the metal and get chased by the pigs, blasting cars and throwing money in the air like we don't care, cause we don't! While Amanda Waller, in charge of the experiment, gets her minions to open up the gate to another world, and while this portal's opening up, it gets super unstable really quickly and blows up. Driving fast, Harley suddenly makes me stop at this bar to get a drink, all the while getting chased by cops cause she's crazy, and I love it, but ends up walking right into a sting operation. She warns me to not come over there, and defends herself from behind the table. Oh, I'm so proud, thinking she can handle all these baddies until the one enemy she can't defeat shows up. Amanda Waller's minion, Katana. She charges at her, but quickly realizes this chick has balls, more lethal than any enemy she's fought before. And unfortunately, I get separated and forced to escape before the army shows up. So she quickly gets overpowered, improvises a little bit, but still gets her butt kicked, as this warrior easily knocks her out and drops her into police custody. And that's when Amanda Waller's experiment manages to open a door to a new world full of unlimited energy and unlimited monsters. Now 6 months— Hey, stop it. What? Joker, stop it. It's my turn now. Fine. 6 months later, Amanda Waller creates an advanced team codenamed Argus, and she heads to recruit its top members. The worst criminals the country has ever captured, Harley Quinn included. Later, she wakes up tied up in this ragtag group of psycho killers with different specialties, and get told their mission is to establish and protect a series of bridgeheads for Amanda's top secret operation in another world. And they will be able to reduce their sentence if they're successful. They try and outsmart her, but says they all have chips in the back of their necks set to explode if they run off, or if they don't check in with one of their cable towers every 72 hours for a bomb reset. And they get introduced to their team leader, Adam. They whine and then set off on their mission in this chopper, traveling through this wormhole when suddenly their chopper crash lands and crushes all their extra gear and team leader Adam. Now in a foreign land with limited supplies, they run into an epic battle between the land's two major forces. Harley frees herself but almost falls off this cliff. This guy doesn't get so lucky though, and they use their powers to break out and finally get free, sort of. Suddenly these foreign enemies that look like pigs corner them. Team member Clayface thinks they're on a film set, but everyone realizes this is real life. Harley quickly charges on offense while the others, King Shark, tag team and shoot, bite, smack, bash, and pop these baddies to hell, scaring the remaining enemies away as these knights show up. The group disarms this one knight, but they see him use magic to retrieve it instantly, shocking them at the rules of this world, and Clayface tells them they come in peace, but gets too excited because he thinks they're in an isekai, causing them to all quickly end up in night jail. All the while as Katana from earlier talks to the evil queen of the land and mentions they know enemies have entered their realm. Alright, my turn. Well, it seems like they're in deep shit. Joker, stop it! I want to say something! No, I'm going to do it. It seems like they're in deep shit, right? Well, there's two things they could have done to not only avoid all danger, but get away scot-free. We've crash landed in a different world, and knowing our boss Amanda Waller, who is nuts, it's safe to assume that this place was definitely dangerous, and we're on the clock. If I was them, I would have ordered everybody to collect any items we could have and move it to a safe distance, not just to avoid any potential explosions, but because we're in a dangerous territory to begin with, and our crash just attracted a whole lot of attention. Crash landing in a dangerous territory and still needing to survive, I would have ordered everyone to move to higher ground, like a hill or various ridges. This would have served various purposes, making it harder for unknown enemies to approach us unnoticed, and would have made it easier to defend. Aiming for natural cover like dense vegetation, rocks, natural formations, but in actuality, I really would not have gone that far away from the helicopter. Here's why. The crash would have attracted attention. We can use that. We could have posted hidden nearby and identified the potential threats that would have come and checked this out, and we could have figured out what we're up against, and from there we could have assessed their capabilities and then started planning with a strategy in mind. But at this point, Deadshot for a profesh is kinda dumb to disarm this guy's sword, because that instantly made it seem like a threat. We're in someone else's house, we're in a different world, we don't know the rules of this world. They have the advantage. A sign of the enemy's significance and importance in this world was their armor. He should have paid attention to it. High quality armor can be identifiable by a few things, either intricate design and detailing that isn't found on standard
standard issue gear or made of polished metals. This means they could have known that these guys were likely working for someone important and should not have immediately escalated things. In this situation, being unable to speak their language, I would have relied on universal communication and tried to speak to them through body language, pointing to ourselves and then gesturing away, indicating we want to leave peacefully, and try to use anything, like a white cloth even, as a symbol of peace. By trying to cooperate with them, it would have been much better, because we don't know the capabilities, we're outgunned, this isn't our world. And we could have used the bombshell Harley and her quirky demeanor to lighten the mood and asked her to draw simple pictures in the dirt to communicate while assessing the enemy's reaction carefully to see how aggressive or cautious they were acting, all the while getting ready for a tactical retreat, lowering weapons, backing off without making any sudden moves. If they try to do something crazy, I would have simply ordered Deadshot to kill their rides. If they end up getting violent, they wouldn't be able to chase us and they wouldn't be able to get back to their bosses all that quickly either. The point is, they should have been way more cautious in a foreign land and thought this through. Back where Harley's crew was locked up, the queen of their castle shows up. Her people think the small battles between the opposing kingdom is stupid and costing the taxpayer money, but she thinks her people can handle it, so yeah. The queen's goody two-shoes daughter Fiona shows up and takes interest in Harley and her crew, and the council notes these people did help them win the battle today, but the queen tells them to pipe down and keep them locked up, while her right-hand man and guide to the queen's daughter Cecil gets called by Fiona to get asked a favor. Back in prison, the gang wonders what's going on and they now have a huge problem. They only have 60 hours left until their heads explode, and they now need to be near the portal they came from to reset their timer. Clayface gets annoyed and says Isekais usually need the hero's help, so he casually slips out of jail and hopes to shack up with a princess, just like a typical Isekai. Well, the others get annoyed and call the guards on his butt, cuffing him with magic cuffs that stop his powers. Now it's lunchtime and everybody goes to eat. Sharkman is still sleeping though, but some prisoners try and start some shit with the squad. Okay, yeah, this fight looks unavoidable, but seriously, there were actually some subtle tactics and communication that the gang could have used to get out of this situation. When you're in prison, the rules are different. It's not about who's the strongest or the loudest, it's about playing smart and understanding the difference in power. In a place like this, you don't need to speak the language to know who's running the show, because in prisons, the leader isn't always the one with the biggest muscle, it's the one with the most respect or fear behind them. By aligning with the leader, you don't just protect yourself, you get the others to follow suit. That's prison 101. Now look, where did they mess up? They didn't plan for this environment. They should have known that in unfamiliar world, words aren't always going to cut it. Rushing in without recognizing the prison's power dynamics is a major mistake, because even though they can't communicate, they still had a chance of getting out of this. If I was them, here's what I would have done. First, respect the leader without challenging his authority. Maybe a respectful nod or open palm gesture to show submission without looking weak. Then offer something useful in prison. It's all about trades. They could have offered protection or resources, something that shows they're valuable to the leader in the group. The key would be watching the leader's reaction. If he accepts the gesture, they're in the clear. But if things go south, Deadshot and Clayface could have stepped in with a show of force, controlled force, enough to keep the peace without triggering a full-on fight. Because at this point, this was the best move they have. The guards rush in and use their magic to put them all back in their cells. They assume they used magic because it's an Isekai, but this other man they somehow never noticed before noticed them speaking their language, Rick Flag. He says he was a part of the first Argus team who came here and knows why they're all here, and their mission was to colonize this planet, #classic. Peacekeeper says they need to reset their timers as soon as possible, but Rick has no idea what he's talking about, but thinks their goals are the same: get to the portal gate to send a signal back to Earth they're alive. And this way the squad can reset their bomb timers too. Rick offers to guide them back if they can help him escape. Just then, King Shark wakes up hungry, but Rick knows his profile and tells him there's yummy food outside the jail, so he easily breaks them out, knocking out the guards, and they free the rest of the prisoners here. Joining forces, everybody battles the guard to take control of the prison. Meanwhile, Fiona begs Cecil to speak to the squad that showed up because she knows they have potential, but he's like, but she convinces him, heading over that night to find it's been taken over by the prisoners themselves. The prisoners laugh at these two, and just then Rick comes out and reveals he learned to speak their language and tells them he wants to talk to Cecil's boss. But his language is so bad, he actually insults him and doesn't even realize it, which pissing the guy off, and he's about to attack him but stops himself for Fiona and tells him they'll take him to see the queen. Rick thanks them and accidentally calls Cecil a chicken poop without realizing it. Arriving at the castle under close guard, they make their case. Harley clocks Fiona checking her out and is suspicious. The queen then casts magic around them so they can communicate together. Rick appeals to the queen and tells her that they're losing the war against the Empire because they're being led by a team from their world. Harley's squad realizes the first people who landed here switched sides. This fact angers the queen and tells Rick it's his people's fault. Peacemaker makes a last move and apologizes to the queen, announcing they will fix their mistake by fighting them in battle. The queen agrees, but if they fail, Rick will lose his head, making him nervous, while the rest secretly don't care that much. Cecil gets shocked by his knights and is not happy they're basically getting replaced, so he ends up telling them later to stay out of his officers' way while they handle today's battle. They get their weapons back and head out, watching from the sidelines as instructed by Cecil. Between Between the knights and the Empire's beasts, Deadshot tells them charging at the castle is stupid, so they should attack from the side. Analyzing the attack formation, they notice the Imperial forces are too good, moving like modern special forces, even though they are just beasts. With 30 hours left till Tomato Juice Brain Explosion, they realize they don't have enough time to come up with a good plan. Harley notices the beasts are fighting like kamikaze fighters because they've been brainwashed, spotting their bandages on them, not flinching or acting in pain. And that's when Deadshot realizes who the enemy's commander is, his homie from the Slammer. They plan a half-butt plan and get to work, blasting through the clay fort with clay-faced powers. Deadshot asks why can't he just destroy the castle, but he says he thinks everyone's powers here have been amplified since they got here, but thinks there's not enough moisture in the walls to destroy it all. Sneaking in, they use their combined specialities to swiftly go through the castle, reaching the top of the castle. Deadshot spots his friend from jail, calling him by his nickname, which is Rat, but turns out Deadshot low-key bullied Rat in prison without realizing it for so long, he hates his butt and signals his beast to attack him, forcing the squad to quickly counter. Deadshot uses mini machine gun fighting moves, while Clayman notices 2 water towers above them and signals Deadshot to blast them, flooding the roof, allowing Clayface to manipulate the wettened clay and sink all the beasts, leaving Rat alone. Peacemaker is about to kill him when he's stopped by Katana, and she steals him away, and the entire kingdom practically falls apart. After, Cecil gets mad at them but say their fighting sucked, so this was necessary, which pisses him off. The Queen's Kingdom is also watching the battle, and the council is impressed with the squad, making Fiona know they can now help them. Meanwhile, Katana tells Rat that she's only helping him this once because the Emperor doesn't like failures, and this is his last warning. Later, the squad goes back to their prisons and now have only 12 hours and 8 minutes until their head goes pop goes the weasel. The pressure is on. Princess Fiona comes to see them. Clayman tries to chat her up, but Deadshot cuts the poop and asks when they're getting let out because they're running out of time. But she's useless and doesn't know, but promises they'll be treated well because of the battle. Harley catches Fiona checking her out again, and this time calls her out on it, but she doesn't say anything. The palace guards finally show up and scold Fiona for coming here without security, just as the Queen calls for them. At the court council, they get word the Imperial army has been spotted marching towards their main castle, moving slowly, but the Queen's defense post won't hold them, and they'll be here within 1 to 2 days. The Queen asks Rick how the army is being led so efficiently, almost like they have one mind, but Rick deflects her questions and asks if she can tell him how the war started so they can better understand the enemy. Long story short, these two have been at war for decades, but the fighting has intensified last 6 months because the elves and beastmen betrayed the Queen's team and joined the other side. Rick secretly thinks the rat catcher used his brainwashing helmet on them. He signals the others to keep their mouths shut while he tries to bluff their way out. But they also notice their enemy Argus members haven't had their heads blown off yet, and Rick tells them it somehow got diffused, but he doesn't know how, which is why Harley's squad now has countdowns on theirs. Just then, Harley has an idea on how to take out the armies based on what the Joker taught her: make them feed on each other. They get invited to help stop their army, and if they do, they'll get set free. The Queen and the Council are reluctant, but Fiona calms their nerves. Planning their attack, they lure the enemies down to the front lines, and call on the prisoners they met to act as pretend soldiers for show. A Deadshot sets up near this tower, and he spots the rat's armies approaching. The rat sees the pretend soldiers and thinks this is all they'll fight and starts laughing. He lifts his wand up in the air to launch his mind controller when suddenly his staff crystal gets shot clean off, disabling Rat Mind's control over the beast, and they realize what's going on and turn on him. Winning another battle, the squad announce they're leaving to the portal to Earth to reset their countdown timer, while the council cheer for winning another battle, but the Queen does not look happy. Rushing to the gate, the back of their necks start flashing, not knowing if the signal to reset their timer will reach them. 5 seconds left, they wait and pray until it stops and realize they're safe for now. Rick warns them they're being kept alive, and it means Amanda wants them to finish the mission, whatever it takes, and establish and protect the bridgeheads so Earth can harvest the crap out of this world. To do this, Rick instructs them the best move is to help the Queen's team end the war and get on the kingdom's good side first. Cue montage of them helping the Queen's country out, winning battle upon battle against the Imperials throughout the land. But then they realize they have one big problem: they're running out of supplies. Deadshot says he's now started limiting his shots, just as Harley wastes an entire clip making a heart out of bullets on this tree. That is adorable. Clayface notices the problem is actually a lot bigger than they thought, because most of the team actually requires ammunition to fight. Rick then realizes that when his team landed, they didn't crash, and since they got captured, all their supplies are still in the helicopter, if they can reach it. But it's on the other side of the mountain, which makes them not happy, but they have no choice, so they head on over, making a pit stop at the castle to party. They tell the squad Cecil gave them tons of food and booze as a reward and in exchange for their services to fight on the front lines, and they can live here. Woo! Making the squad think they are gullible as hell. The next morning, the orcs give Harley a walk frying pan as a weapon, and they continue on their travel Middle-earth style, running into animals, mountains, scary bridges as they near the summit of the mountain. But that's when they spot the helicopter, and they're super excited, but they realize it's being used as a nest for a dragon. Clayface transforms into this weird clay bird to try and attract attention, but gets nothing except the dragon's attention, coming at them at full speed to eat their butts. Okay, here's where things went south. They rushed into this fight blindly without any surveillance yet again, and should have known better. You should have taken at least 10 to 20 minutes to conduct surveillance, maybe look at the terrain a little bit, assess the situation. It would have allowed them to spot the dragon before walking into his territory, and they are like about to split up right now, which is a huge mistake, because you're going against a dragon. Pretty sure it can easily corner people one-on-one without much fuss, which is why they should have stayed together and used their combined strength to outmaneuver it. If I was them, I would have used Clayman as a decoy, and he could have transformed into something much larger and more distracting, keeping the dragon focused on him. Meanwhile, Harley could have used her speed and unpredictability to draw the dragon's attention. Now, for most creatures, the brain struggles to focus on multiple fast-moving targets due to a process called selective attention. This would have made it harder for the dragon to track Harley and the others at once, giving the team as a unit a better chance. Once King Shark is back, he could have acted as the tank, shielding the team while they moved towards the chopper. Military tactics prove that moving as a unit covers everyone's weaknesses, while splitting up leaves them exposed. Once we get to the chopper, I would have prioritized nabbing only key ammo and set a timed ambush in order to take out the dragon by planting explosive near rock wall, not in the open. Here's why. When you set off a bomb in an open area, a lot of the force is spread out and you lose about 70% of the power in the first few meters. But when you set it off near a rock wall, it not only concentrates the explosion, but it basically amplifies it, which would cause debris to fall, which could have potentially trapped the dragon, and this on top of the shockwave combined with the falling rocks would have hit it harder and disabled the dragon's movement, and even more ideally, could have bought the team time to escape while leaving the dragon confused and shell-shocked. The dragon charges down and blasts fireballs at the group, forcing them to split. The dragon chases Harley, King Shark tries to defend but gets downed, Deadshot realizes he has one shot left, while Clayface walls in the dragon, confusing it, allowing Deadshot to fire straight at its eye but somehow blocks it, spitting a fireball at them, but Clayface blocks it. The fire dries up all the moisture from the clay, making Clayface now useless. They're about to die, but Harley tennis slams the fireball back with her powerful walk and gets saved by Deadshot. The others rush to go to the chopper to get the weapons. Rick quickly grabs the only available radio and hides it from the team, while Peacemaker clocks him. Harley comes in and picks up a bazooka, letting Peacemaker distract the dragon. Clayface holds it still by its tail. Deadshot reloaded, fires at the dragon's neck, flipping it out and nearly killing Deadshot in the process. After Peacemaker reveals the dragon was hostile because it was a mom. He wants to make an omelet with it, but Harley quickly says no just as it hatches. Naming it Arthur, she decides to make him her pet. Meanwhile, Rick calls Amanda Wallace, updating her on everything, and gets ordered to continue the plan, but take out Harley's squad. Rick returns and tells everybody to pack what they can and get ready, and return for the rest later, heading down back the road they came. But something smells weird because they realize the orc's fortress has been completely destroyed, including the friends Harley made by these strange-looking elves. And they notice this powerful lady named Enchantress, who appears from the sky, along with this nerd named Thinker. The squad sees these two are behind all of it, and they think the fort has fallen, but Harley says nah. They launch an attack and combine moves and combos, but they notice that they are no match for these opponents. King Shark charges at Enchantress, but gets slowed down by mind-controlled soldiers. He almost manages to break Enchantress's shield, but gets smacked back into the water, where he suddenly gets double-teamed by this Leviathan native to this world and Killer Croc. Outside, the squad work on taking out this wave of enemies, but Thinker uses his powers to show all the heroes their worst fears, except for Harley because she's crazy. Thinker grabs a pistol and shoots everyone down in front of her. Harley gets really mad and tries to do something, but she eats shit instead. Later, she wakes up just as Rick shows up and says their orders are now to catch these two alive, but Harley's too busy caring for her dead comrades. But then they wake up just like that, realizing that something stopped their bullets from killing them, and they wonder what just happened. Later, they return to their kingdom but get put straight back to jail. Ha! Now the council reveals what happened and are shocked that the elf army is now controlled with such efficiency and are horrified about what's to come. But the queen tells them to chill out because they lost nothing and blames it on the squad. She announces they were a mistake and orders them to be hung. Fiona begs her to spare their lives, but the queen just smiles really evilly. Fiona goes to complain to Cecil, but this time he actually agrees with her, and despite them being annoying as hell, he's starting to like them too, and he has an idea. He quickly heads down to the jail and reveals he's going to break them out, using Clayman to pull out one of King Shark's teeth and sends him on a rage, using him as a distraction to break out, and they get back their weapons. Peacemaker says they stop Thinker first, but before that they need to get back to the gate to Earth to top off their timers before killing them, not realizing that during their battle earlier, Thinker read their minds and is now waiting at the gate for them. The squad reaches the site the next day but quickly find out they're in trouble. Mind-controlled elves have taken over the area. They map out their plan of attack and consider that all the elves' minds are connected based on how they act, and assume the Thinker's cap is the reason behind this, and they must get it off of him as soon as possible. Harley has an idea from her days with Joker and thinks they should threaten the guy who has the keys. The group doesn't know what she means, but she'll show them, and the group breaks off. These four, Harley, King Shark, Clayface, and Peacemaker, approach the fortress from the back, smuggling Clayface in King Shark's bag while he sneaks up through the water, while Deadshot and Rick Flag wait for their signal to lure some of the elves to this hut. But these two realize they never agreed agreed on what the signal would be, King Shark accidentally burps super loud, alerting the elves, and Deadshot thinks this is the sign and kicks Rick down to distract the elves. Deadshot fires a rocket at the statue while Clayface mimics the Thinker, sneaking past security just as he runs into Katana, who asks him why he called for her. Clayman sweats and says they should talk in the room, and he secretly tries to keep her distracted. Harley and Peacemaker kidnap one of the elves to imprison in the hut and inspect how he's being controlled, finding this device attached to its ear. But they don't realize the real Thinker is onto them. Noticing a few of his elves' frequency acting weird, he orders his entire army to go to that elf to check it out. As the group sees trouble incoming, Harley and King Shark work to hold them off. Deadshot in the distance fires another shot at the statue, signaling Harley as she rushes through the fortress defenseless, since all the elves are fighting her teammates. Reaching the Thinker, he realizes their plan was so silly he never once considered it, and Katana is still being held up by Clayman impersonating as the fake Thinker. Harley tries to attack him but realizes he can predict her moves. He counters and throws her to the wall, but she manages to knock him down with her bat. Pissing him off, he suddenly dives deep into her mind and sees her deepest memories, but Harley is, as I said, crazy and makes Thinker go nuts, and she beats him in mind battle and knocks him out in real life, disabling his mind control helmet. Instantly making the rest of the elves not lethal anymore, everybody rushes to the gate before their timer runs out as Thinker's fortress is about to break. Harley gets there first, but Katana shows up just in front of it, now holding Thinker's head, revealing he was only useful because of his helmet and his beaten-up Clayman. Harley tries to attack but gets disarmed. Clayman, still weak, transforms into a weapon for her to use. The two duel hard, and Harley this time manages to break her sword in two and knocks her other sword away, and even Mask, revealing her face. The other squad members finally reach the gate to back up Harley, but Katana escapes once again. They top up their timers and then burn the flag of the kingdom they were prisoners of. Word soon gets back to the kingdom what the squad did and how they escaped, making the queen furious, asking for their heads, while Fiona secretly watches, realizing this isn't her mother. At the queen's council, she asks one of her trusted helpers to carry out a secret task. Meanwhile, the squad returns to the kingdom thinking their escape will be forgiven since they helped beat the Thinker. They try to explain this to the queen, but she points out that the Thinker came from their own world, so they just fixed their own mess. She also accuses them of causing trouble at the prison and letting all the prisoners go. The squad realizes this kingdom treats them just like people did on Earth. An official walks up and slaps Harley. This makes King Shark super mad, so he eats the official. Cecil tries to act and attempts to cut open King Shark's stomach, but gets stopped and held up at gunpoint. The queen then uses magic to tie up King Shark and orders that they all be put to death. Cecil thinks this is a little much and convinces the queen to only punish King Shark, taking him away while the rest are kicked out. Fiona runs out to say sorry, but Harley tells her to be quiet since she's just the queen's pet, dropping her bat in anger. Later, the squad gets drunk at a bar except for Rick. While there, Rick sees Harley holding a fancy gemstone that she took from one of the statues at the kingdom. The squad ends up going wild. The next day, Rick wakes them up and says they need to head to the gate. The group thinks they're going home, but Rick says nope, the kingdom won't let them after all that's happened. They can't leave without King Shark, so they need to reset their timers first and go back to get him. Harley then sees Artie sleeping and decides to let him be free since Amanda would probably kill him back on Earth anyways. At the gate, they reset their timers just as Rick gets a call from their boss Amanda, surprising the squad as they realize he's been talking to Earth the whole time. He updates her that getting help from this world is now impossible because of what's happened. Amanda tells him to return to Earth and says she'll handle the King Shark problem. Suddenly, the timers on the squad start going off and Clayface's head explodes. Amanda says the mission is now too hard and decides to get rid of the squad. Shocking Rick, he tries to defend them as they see fires at the kingdom. Rick pulls a Hail Mary and tells Amanda that the kingdom is in trouble and this is their chance to make things right and build a relationship with them. Amanda agrees and gives them 24 hours or else they'll be blown up and Rick will be left on this planet. He then tells the group that he's seen them do some good, so he's willing to help them. And that's when Clayface suddenly appears out of nowhere, scaring everybody. He explains that he can move his organs like his brain and heart anywhere in his body and went along with this mission the whole time because they can't have a good Isekai without a strong protagonist. The squad rolls their eyes, but they're glad he's okay. Back at the kingdom, Caesar realizes this isn't the kingdom he once knew, just as a knight enters and tries to kill him, forcing him to defend himself and beat the knight. And just then, the minister shows up wearing the helmet that the Tinker had, controlling the guards around him. Cecil accuses him of betraying the kingdom, but the minister says these are actually the queen's orders. Cecil worries about Fiona, but the minister tells him he's got bigger problems and sends guards to attack him. Meanwhile, Fiona thinks about what Harley said and decides it's finally time to confront her mother, but soon realizes the queen isn't her real mom. The fake queen reveals that Fiona's mother has been dead all along and says the more people die, the stronger she gets, and she's the one who started the war between the kingdom and the empire. Fake queen captures her and says the sacred sword stuck inside of King Shark's belly is the only thing that once took away her powers, but now no one can stop her, and just then Cecil arrives just in time to save Fiona. They find out the fake queen is actually the undead king. Cecil basically flashbangs, distracts this mofo, and they escape while the undead king orders her troops to kill them and prepares to destroy the kingdom. Cecil and Fiona hide in her room while he gives her a golden sword, and he comes up with a plan. The guards start banging on the door and finally break in, but Fiona is all alone. She tells him she thought being quiet was what the kingdom needed, but now she knows they needed action. Turning around around and acts like Harley with her bat and makeup. She knocks down the minister and takes off his helmet, freeing the guards from his control and now taking charge. Fiona tells Cecil to gather everyone who's not under her mind control because they're taking back the kingdom, and he happily agrees. Meanwhile, the undead king reaches the edge of the forest and races an undead army to attack this innocent village. She announces this is what they get for blowing up an unworthy queen, but Fiona basically hijacks her intercom and tells her people to not be scared and challenges the undead king to come fight her. Angry, the undead king makes the water around the kingdom flood inside, as Killer Croc shows up aiming to take out Fiona. But King Shark appears, revealing he escaped, and for a moment mistakes Fiona for Harley, defending her in the meantime. But the undead king shows up and tells Fiona it's over, and even the squad arrive just in time to protect Fiona and the kingdom, but realize they need to deal with the incoming undead army first and spot King Shark alive in the distance. Rick comes up with a plan and says they need to save Fiona first and suggests splitting in 2 groups. Deadshot and Harley will handle the zombies while Clayface, Peacemaker, and Rick will save the princess. Before leaving, he gives Harley his only walkie-talkie. Now more mad than ever, the undead king calls Enchantress to appear, telling her to obey or else. Using her powers, she suppresses these two. Fiona sees this in the distance and tells Cecil to go help Deadshot and Harley instead. Before leaving, he gives her a device and heads off. In the meantime, the squad does their usual tricks, but Katana shows up to face Clayface and Rick Flag, almost taking out Clayface, but she doesn't finish him off and runs away instead. Annoyed at being tested, he chases her, while Rick follows, but they get led to the strange dragon holding someone inside. Back in town, Harley dares Enchantress to fight fair and square on the ground, but nearly gets crushed by a falling building, and that's when a big dragon saves them. Finding out it's Artie, who is now huge. Now all grown up, Artie holds off Enchantress while Deadshot and Harley fight the enemies on the ground. Realizing they're not making progress, Harley notices the gem she stole earlier has started to glow, and she figures out it's some kind of magic boost, attaching the gem to her gun, and she fires at the Enchantress, and this time actually hurts her, causing her to send a blast wave their way, throwing Deadshot way back. He's about to be overwhelmed when Cecil shows up in a magic powered up suit, saving him. With Deadshot's old guns, and the two team up against the zombies, while Harley and Artie quickly overpower Enchantress. Harley tells her she noticed something off between her and the undead king, and figures out that the Enchantress was the one who saved them before. Enchantress gets annoyed, but Harley, knowing how hostages' minds work because duh, guesses that the undead king is holding someone Enchantress cares about, which is why she's following orders. Back at Rick and Clayface's spot, they notice the person trapped inside of the dragon actually looks like Enchantress, as Katana secretly watches them. Clayface thinks the person inside the dragon is a MacGuffin. Rick is confused. Clayface says he needs to brush up on his movie tropes because this person is important to the plot, yo. They rush in to scare the dragon, but get knocked back until an explosion happens nearby, freeing the woman as she hits a tree. Ouch. Enchantress feels this and tells them to stop messing with her. She flies straight up. Harley is confused when Rick radios her, saying they have something likely connected to Enchantress. Harley tells them her location as they rush to her but get cut off. Harley realizes the undead king stole something from Enchantress and tells her they're bringing it back so she can calm down. Clayface and Rick drag the woman's body back and are not gentle, hitting bumps and accidentally hurting Enchantress, which makes her really angry, so it's counterproductive. She starts firing at Harley and goes wild. Rick and Clayface run into a tree, getting cornered by the dragon, but they're saved once again by Katana. She tells them to go to Harley and then disappears. Clayface tells Rick that Katana is clearly in love with him and will likely visit him after this is over, saying it's basically a classic love story, whatever. They discuss another way to bring the woman back because the zombies in town will easily stop them. Closer to the kingdom, Peacemaker helps King Shark fight Killer Croc and Leviathan. Since Peacemaker is weaker underwater, he goes for Leviathan's fin and threatens Killer Croc to give up or else his friend will get hurt. But Killer Croc is selfish and says he has no time for weaklings. Peacemaker ends up letting go of Leviathan, who is now angry at Killer Croc for betraying him and goes to fight him instead, and this helps Peacemaker and King Shark win the fight. Meanwhile in town, Deadshot carries Cecil to safety, who is now injured. Cecil tells Deadshot to use some of his armor, giving him magical powers like Harley. Nearby, Katana talks to the undead king using telepathy, and we find out they're actually working together. The undead king complains that Katana is letting her do all the work, but Katana flatters her, saying she's become so powerful. Suddenly they notice the real Enchantress's body being rolled into town by Clayface. The undead king realizes that if her real body is brought back to her soul, Enchantress will be free. So she prepares to turn her into a zombie, temporarily disabling her as she falls from the sky. Harley and Artie go to save her and are covered by Deadshot, who is now super powerful, as Enchantress lands on Clayface and a real body. She wakes up now finally free and is ready to get revenge. The undead king has had enough and uses her final move, upgrading all her zombie soldiers. Peacemaker and King Shark arrive too, and the squad is now back together. Deadshot tells them that he's brought pieces of armor that will give them magical powers like him. Everyone gets epic magical transformations like Clayface's Michael Jackson move. As they charge with their new powers, defeating enemies easily, they realize it's just the first wave. Enchantress tells them to go defeat the undead king while she holds off the other waves, and then they'll be even. They all spring up on the boss but quickly get knocked back. Harley lands near Fiona, who is dressed like her. Harley's ego makes her think Fiona looks so pretty now, making her happy for a sec before they get back to business. Fiona tells them the undead king can only be defeated by a powerful sword, but it's currently missing. Harley notices Fiona can do magic and has a plan. She updates everyone and rushes, charging in on Artie, now getting covered by the others as she reaches the undead king but gets caught. About about to be defeated, the undead king discovers this person is actually Fiona in disguise. Using the bracelet Cecil gave her, Fiona signals for her sword to return, which blasts out of King Shark's belly and flies straight through the undead king's head to reach Fiona. As the undead king falls, she spots Katana and realizes she was set up. Harley runs up and gives the undead king a final smack with her bat, defeating her once and for all. Later, Fiona becomes the new queen and thanks the squad for saving her and the kingdom. She agrees to cooperate with Rick and let Earth collect resources from their planet. Rick updates Amanda that his primary mission is still ongoing, but mentions they ran into Katana on this planet. Amanda says that's impossible since the real Katana never left her side and thinks it's the work of the Joker. She believes he was the one making their job harder this whole time and thinks he's up to something bigger. Amanda orders Rick to hunt down and stop him if necessary, thinking he dressed up as Katana to annoy her as payback for capturing Harley. Well, this seems like a big reveal, but this is actually a lot more obvious than people think. The real Katana, for starters, has brown eyes, and this fake version has blue eyes the whole time. How did they not notice this? If I was Harley, I would have clocked this inconsistency immediately, because you don't just forget something like that. Harley fought Katana back on Earth while she was working for Waller. That fight was up close and personal. Harley would have gotten a good look at her face, especially those brown eyes. The brain is wired to focus on key features, especially the eyes, a process called configural processing. The brain stores those little details even when someone's wearing a mask. Since Katana's mask did not cover her eyes, it's way more likely Harley's brain would have remembered the brown, and seeing any type of blue would have set off all kinds of alarm bells. Plus, with their experience dealing with shapeshifters like Clayface, they should have been on alert for any oddities, and let's not forget, Harley is known for her sharp intuition. If she wasn't so freaking distracted by the mission or thinking about the Joker, she would have noticed the deception way sooner. This would have also helped her recognize the subtle differences in fake Katana's behavior, like her mannerisms or fighting style, which would have raised even more suspicions. And honestly, with all the magical power-ups, you'd think they'd at least wonder why Katana suddenly looked and acted different too, but no, they missed all the clues. Anyways, elsewhere, we find out the Joker traveled to this world ages back before Harley's crew arrived and was impersonating people like the Ratcatcher, Killer Croc, and Katana this whole time, and tricked the undead king into working with him. Joker thinks her plan was too peaceful long-term because he's got something bigger in mind, and wonders if this world has cured Harley's boredom or if she needs more chaos. But what did you think about the video? What would you do different? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, and as always, don't forget to check out our How to Beat playlist.